I think I'm suited to be a heavyweight boxing champion. But do you really believe I can assault anybody? Moi? Me? I mean, those claims are spurious.
Did you listen to the Hot Breakfast this morning? Here's what you missed.
He is the very controversial president of the LSK. He says he will not run again for re-election of the LSK, but he has declared his intention to run as MP for Westlands.
Yes. But first we'll take him back to LSK a bit.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Karibu sana, Mr. President. Welcome to Hot 96.
Asante sana, Jeff and Nick.
So, with LSK, you started off really on a high note, and then you started getting hammered and hammered. Why? What is it about LSK that's so controversial?
Well, LSK has been impactful insofar as matters of national importance are concerned. But in the last 5 years before I assumed office, it had become docile. In fact, in the mouths of many people, it was dead. Now, when we took over the leadership of the Law Society, we came in with a bang and did a lot to ensure that the rights of Kenyans are upheld, to hold the executive and the legislature accountable. That explains the reason as to why we appear to have been hammered. But Jeff, look at us. We have flourished. We have restored the lost glory of the Law Society. Nowadays, anywhere you go, they will tell you this is what the Law Society has done to the people of Kenya. And in every administration, of course, you're bound to meet upheavals and tumult. That explains my tenure. But in the evaluation of most Kenyans, we have done considerably well. We have restored the lost glory of the Law Society, something that I'm tremendously proud of.
Yeah, so why don't you want to run again? Why don't you want to seek re-election if you're so proud of what you have done?
Well, I would have wanted to run again and serve the lawyers and the people of Kenya. Well, however, the Law Society appears to be the only democratic institution that has set term limits. We just serve for one term of 2 years, so I'm not eligible to run again.
But the CEO continues to stay there. That's the lady you used to have a lot of drama with, Mercy Wambua.
I have no idea who you're talking about. It's an acronym that are known to me.
Nice one. So I guess the drama that was in here prepared you for your jump into politics, or politics was been in you deep down.
No, Nick, I'll be honest with you. Politics was never in my blood. In fact, if we were to do blood typing, the doctors will start wondering why did this individual just mutate into this politician. But in one's profession, in your career growth, you tend to realize certain inadequacies of what you can do as a professional. Now, my experience at the Law Society gave me a very big insight on what needs to be done for the public. And often you cannot exhaust all this through litigation, through memorandum to Parliament. What better opportunity than for you to go into the legislative house where laws are made, where oversight of the executive is undertaken, where the distribution of national revenue is the function of the people who debate there, where funds are allocated for infrastructural development and poverty alleviation. And you've seen the caliber of parliamentarians we've had of late. These are some of the things that have made me not only seek to run for office, but also rally many other professionals, irrespective of what they're doing. Journalists, doctors, engineers, architects, accountants, teachers, everybody. We need people in Parliament who can indicate what their track record is, what they have done, not just poodles, puppies who go there and pursue an agenda that is read or pronounced for them.
Wouldn't you feel like your skill would be better suited for the judiciary? I mean, you can do the same thing, but now for people who are not benefiting from how the law is being selectively used on people.
Well, judges play a fundamental role in ensuring that the rule of law and constitutionalism is upheld and sustained in this republic. But people have their own expertise. I will perform dismally as a judge because I don't have the tolerance of listening to people who do not manifest intellectual ability. And this is the biggest
problem. But now your colleagues in parliament will be the people you're avoiding in court.
And not only that, the tolerance of your voters in Westlands. Do you have the patience for that?
Of course, I have the greatest patience for the people, because the people are the employer. But I must create the dichotomy between the functions of the court and the functions of parliament. Parliament has a vast platform for which to bring change. How many times do we get fundamental cases coming to court for courts to determine? Look at the issue of the dissolution of parliament. Look at the BBI case. It's not so often that these matters come before the court, but they come before parliament on a daily basis. And it is for that reason that parliament will be the best platform for me to continue the 3-point agenda upon which I was elected as president of the Law Society. And I've now expanded the 3-point agenda into a 4-point agenda. Quite pinpoint and specific.
Let's face it, if Tim Wanyonyi hadn't declared that he was going to continue his tenure at Westlands, would you have applied? Would you have, because he intends to run for governor, but would you have declared your interest in Westlands?
Jeff, I always undertake perilous assignments. In fact, hardly do I take simplistic cases as an advocate, because they don't intrigue my mind. And if you may recall, it was about the 14th of May 2021 that I declared my interest to run for Member of Parliament for Westlands. And by then, Tim Wanyonyi had not indicated that he'll be going for governor. So his exit is not an indicator as to why I want to serve the people of Westlands. I will have run, and I indeed declared my interest to run as early as May. But it must be understood that Tim Wanyonyi, as a member of National Assembly for Westlands, has done tremendously well. And what better way to continue that legacy than to have somebody with similar or even better abilities to deliver for the people of Westlands and the people of Kenya in general.
I've been seeing some of your colleagues making it to the news. You know,
Yes.
A senator shoots someone, an MP has shot someone, an MP is accused of this, a governor is accused of that. Is there anything you as an MP, if you come in, would be able to change that for the normal Mwananchi?
That's the reason as why, Nick, I insist that we need quality individuals, men and women of values, men whose track record can be traced. Sorry, I don't want to identify any individuals, but if you are to examine the people you are referring to, you can't locate where they were before they got into parliament. And often people get into parliament with two reasons. One is to make money, another one is to protect the money they have made. Why do you need to protect the money you've made? Why do you need to make money in parliament? Parliament is a house where service has to be delivered to the people of Kenya. And look at me. I've run an illustrious legal practice for the last 17 years. I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything to conceal. So once there, I will seek as the most fundamental step to ensure that we have good legislation in order that we may weed out some of these things. And Nick, I even encourage you to run for parliament. I think you will make a very good legislator.
I'll think of being the president in like 2027.
Yes.
For real.
Yeah. You'll make a very good legislator. I mean, Jeff Koinange here can be a very good governor. Quite organized characters. These are the people we need in leadership.
That's very encouraging. Okay, let me ask you.
You flattered us just before I asked. So are you in it to hide the money or to make money? You knew where I was going about diversion.
Now, Nick, I'm royalty. I'm noble. You know, I'm a Maragoli king. But you see, even in England, royalties do not have money. All they have is the good name that they are born with or that they have acquired. So I'm not getting into parliament to to hide my money. I'm not getting into parliament to make money. In fact, we make more money in legal practice than anybody else will have made in parliament, unless, of course, you are engaged in dubious deals. And I'm not predisposed to engagement in dubious deals. So your questions are answered. I think if there was any concern, it has been assuaged.
We normally discourage people from using big words.
Assuaged.
What is assuaged?
Very legal.
Nico, you have an illustrious career as a commentator on Kingdom Animalia. How can you miss such a simple English word like
that is now for the normal msikilizaji in your constituency.
Westlands.
Inamaanisha kwamba nimeweza kudhibitisha ya kwamba mimi si mfisadi, mimi si mkiritimba. Nitakapofika bunge nitafanya kazi ambayo imetengwa kwa niaba ya mbunge kulingana na katiba na sheria ndogo. Sijafuja pesa zozote, siendi bunge kuficha pesa zozote, siendi bunge kutafuta pesa. Naenda bunge kuhakikisha kwamba maslahi ya watu wa Westlands, maslahi ya watu wa Kenya yanatimizika.
Jeff, just repeat what he said.
Maslahi ya watu wa Kenya. To matters national, the 6 judges that were not appointed by the president, you have been very outspoken in saying they must assume office.
Yes.
You insist on that?
Yes, they must assume office because it's quite evident there's been their election an egregious violation of the Constitution by the Chief Executive of this Republic, His Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And courts have addressed this issue time without number. And it must concern everybody that we're now getting into the 3rd year and 6 of these judges have not been sworn in. The other day, the High Court made a monumental decision indicating that the President has been given ceremonial powers in the Constitution to gazette and swear in these judges. But these powers do not reside anywhere in the Constitution in a written form. They are perfunctory. He does not have an active role in it. Now that he has not exercised those powers, the powers would be taken from him 14 days from the date of delivery of judgment, and these 6 judges are to assume office. And to that extent, the Chief Justice and the Judicial Service Commission were directed to ensure that they do what is necessary. But as we are all aware, the Court of Appeal has stayed that decision until the delivery of a ruling in respect of that matter. The state, the Attorney General, having appealed the decision of the High Court.
So when 14 days lapses and nothing happens, we have to wait for that date of the Court of Appeal, right?
Yes, we have to wait for the decision of the Court of Appeal.
But you've thought in your way, in your thinking, you said it was very unfair that they weren't appointed. 34 were appointed, but these 6 were left out.
It's not only unfair, it's egregious, it's aggravated, it's annoying, it's disappointing. Why? I mean, we're talking about judges, and judges play a very big role in dispute resolution in this country. We give them heavy responsibilities. Now, if you have any reasons to believe that a candidate for appointment as a judge or a judge who has been elevated from the High Court to the Court of Appeal suffers integrity questions, it's very important that you bring these questions before the Judicial Service Commission. You don't wait for the Judicial Service Commission to make a recommendation. Then you saddle these judges with spurious claims. You dent their careers. You ruin their names. I mean, how do you expect them to live in the society? But more fundamentally, you impugn, you make incredulous the judicial process, the independence of the judiciary, and it shouldn't happen. I don't know of any country where the president refuses to swear in judges. I mean, maybe in the 18th century, we are made to know. Nick, you're laughing. You remember the famous question that was asked to a candidate for Chief Justice: what is the principle in Marbury versus Madison? This was a case where the President of the United States thought a nominee for appointment for judge made by his predecessor should not assume office, and just decided to be adamant and refused to swear him in. And therein lies the principle that judicial authority must be respected. Administrative powers must be exercised within the confines of the law and the Constitution. You just don't take it upon yourself to decide what is right and what is wrong when another body has already done its role. It's a big problem in this country.
Maybe now that you've mentioned the law, do you feel like some of our laws encourage impunity and mistreatment of regular people? Because a lot of things are done, like we have, like I mentioned, the senator situation, the corruption case. Do you feel like some of our laws need to be made a bit stricter to prevent crimes from happening?
No, there's nothing wrong with the laws. There's nothing wrong with the Constitution. In fact, the Constitution has said everybody is equal before the law. Mm-hmm. We need to be treated equally. But are we treated equally? Your question is quite appropriate. No, not everybody is treated equally. Why is that the case? Perhaps we may pick it from Article 10 of the Constitution. There is lack of good governance. For instance, the matters you've just enumerated, there is disparity in which suspects are treated. Why is that so? Because of the position they hold in the society, because of the wealth they wield and use to interfere with criminal investigations, or even to stifle civil processes. That's a correct premise upon which to look at these things. But what is fundamental and requires change and immediate change is the culture. The people we elect, the people we appoint into office. Look, for instance, when the president says, I will not leave power to thieves. There are thieves in my government. Who is he talking about? I mean, the people in government were either elected or appointed. So why don't we be progressive in what we want to do? If we want to have a culture of good governance, then we must elect people with values. We must appoint people who are competent for the functions and powers we want to give them. Because if we fail to do that, we'll always complain that there is a problem with the law. There is nothing wrong with the law.
But at the same time, the president can't fire people at will. I mean, if you've got things in your government or that are siphoning money from the system, he should be in a position to do that. But he doesn't because of how the law has been put to kind of
it's the Constitution.
He doesn't need to fire them. He ought not to have appointed them in the first place.
But he appoints them, then they do those things
once they're in.
Yeah, it's so like now they just end up being moved from one parastatal to another to go and do what they do best.
Look at what my predecessor did the day before yesterday. He declined an appointment to a statutory body. I mean, and if you read his letter, he says he was not consulted. So the problem is not in the appointees, because if somebody is bereft of the ability to perform a particular function, he ought not to be appointed. The problem is with the person appointing. Remember, even when we went to court the other day about Najib Balala's appointment of certain characters into a board, the problem was not with the appointees, because people are not equal. People have different capacities. But when you've been given the responsibility of making decisions, the buck stops with you. And for this reason, the malaise, the malpractice, the deficiencies we see in these administrations can only be attributed to the people given the ultimate power of appointment.
Coming back to the LSK, there was a point where you were barred, your group was barred from entering your offices.
Yes.
And now, how is the situation?
Well, it has never happened before in the history of the Law Society since the 1940s, when the Law Society was established. Look, Kenyatta's regime, Kenyatta 1, that is Jomo Kenyatta, Daniel Arap Moi, Mwai Kibaki, never interfered with the affairs of the Law Society. But what we've seen lately is an indicator of how, despite a transformative constitution, you can still have tyranny. I mean, you all witnessed what happened there. the entire state machinery was deployed. More than 60 heavily armed police officers came and cut the gate to allow goons to come and destroy property, harm my council members. But to answer your question, we went to court, and the court asserted the constitutional rights that we enjoy as advocates and as leaders of the law society, and prohibited those police officers, and in particular the Inspector General of National Police and all other commanders under him, from interfering with our activities of the Law Society of Kenya.
So in other words, you are back in office.
Now, I've always been in office. This was an invasion which was put at bay by a court order. And in fact, it started immediately. We held the special general meeting on the 26th of June 2021, and the members expelled those rebel 8 council members who were aligned to the state and who were bidding for the state to ensure that we don't perform our functions under the statute. And you could see the entire state machinery struggling to install this 8, and the effect of what it had in the performance of services. But as we speak right now, the courts have asserted the fact that the Law Society is an independent bar, and it must be given the right that it's due to it to perform its functions. Of course, there are certain individuals in the state and outside the state who will want to interfere with the operations of the Law Society, thinking that they will trim it down. But in actual fact, they're not doing that. They're crippling a society that has performed a fundamental role in maintaining the fabric of the rule of law and constitutionalism in Kenya.
There's some critics who insist that you are the one who is the tyrant in the LSK, that you're the biggest obstacle to the LSK right now. What do you tell them?
Criticism is good, but criticism must be objective. It must be based upon a proper evaluation of facts. I mean, I cannot be a tyrant. Does a tyrant get elected into office with an absolute majority of the voters? I mean, if you were to ask any advocate, if you were to ask an average Kenyan, they will say that I've performed excellently. My performance can only be comparable to doyens, people like Honorable Paul Kibugi Mwite, Dr. Willie Mutunga, Dr. Gibson Kamau Kuria, who served even under more perilous times than myself. And because of the positions they took, they were castigated. So, Jeff, my point is this. We've made advocates proud. We've made Kenyans proud. I'm sure, Nick, if you go to our famous watering point, you can continue watering knowing that you will go home without any threat from the police, because the Law Society went to court and demanded that even in the enforcement of the curfew, then the police had to respect human rights. And it's through our spirited efforts that the president had to remove this damn curfew. So if that is tyranny, then I do not know what definition you can give to proper service.
But when Nick is one of the happiest peoples when it came to the lifting of that curfew.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. In fact, I said if the president says I vote for even Ruben Kigame, I will. Speaking of our presidents, there's the 2 that are running. Tell us the benefits of each, because now you have to be neutral. Who would you go for as Nelson?
You know, Nick, at one point in time, the animals had to prepare a feast for the farmer. Mm-hmm. The cow volunteered to produce milk, the hen volunteered to produce an egg, and then they said, we need pork. The pig had to volunteer to die. Look, whoever becomes the president will be the choice of the people of Kenya. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in serving the people of Westlands as their member of parliament. I do not want to veer off and stray in territory that is outside my purview.
Spoken like a true lawyer.
You know, like a true lawyer.
He has answered, but he has not answered.
Speaking of which, the man with the same name twice
Maigun.
has announced he is returning on the 16th of this month. That's in exactly 2 weeks' time from today. And you have been very supportive of that.
Absolutely. You remember when Maiguna's house was bombed and he was taken hostage and detained, kept incommunicado for 6 days. We went to court and got the initial order for his production. We've piled order after order after order. There are now about 15 orders.
Yes.
I mean, Miguna is a Kenyan. It is as simple as day and night. In fact, a court order was not required to assert that position. Why? The Ministry of Interior does not want to comply with the court order and facilitate the return of Miguna is something that baffles. And look, some of these characters who are doing these things say they want to run for public office. Yeah,
yes.
And Nick, you and Jeff will end up electing these tomfooleries into office. I mean, it's a shame.
It will be the first time.
Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, so the government of the Republic of Kenya must do the right thing now, not yesterday. Remove these red alerts so that Miguna can come back home. And you know, it's not about Miguna, it's about the rule of law. It's about good governance.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, you may find Miguna detestable. I do not find Miguna detestable. He holds very fundamental positions. No wonder many of us who speak so informed, who speak with a lot of authority on issues of rule of law, will be considered tyrants, will be considered arrogant, but we are not. And Miguna is in that category. He is a Kenyan. The government must allow Miguna to come back to Kenya.
Thank you for representing myself in absentia. You pull the best, Miguna. You pull the best.
Jeff,
yes, sir.
It's you who took away Miguna because you were in that plane.
Jeffrey was minding his own business.
I was with 150 other passengers.
But you would not blame.
But you are the most
Jeffrey.
prominent Kenyan in that plane, weren't you?
What does that mean? The most prominent
Yes, I was switch off the plane engine and say,
ungesema simamisha gari Miguna asuke hapa mara moja.
The wrangle between your group and the other group. Let's get to the bottom of it. I know you're trying to avoid it, but the other group that took you to court that said, "Oh, you were abusive. Oh, you slapped one of them." What? The allegations.
I mean, Jeff, well, I weigh 84 kilograms. I think I'm suited to be a heavyweight boxing champion. But do you really believe I can assault anybody? Me? I mean, those claims are spurious. No wonder when the file was taken to the Director of Public Prosecution, he told Kinoti, wacha ujinga bana. Go and look for serious cases to bring before me. But insofar as the leadership of the Law Society of Kenya is concerned, that small rebellious group was contained by the members themselves. It's not in office, and we've continued to serve from the 26th of June 2021 up to now, despite their persistence interference with what we're doing. There is nothing that is required of us that has not been done. And perhaps this is the point in time that we need to say, there is no administration that can be said to have excelled in its work if it is not prone to upheavals, if it is not prone to rebellion, if it is not prone to resistance. This is an indicator that we're doing an excellent job. And it's okay. We embrace them. Let them be rebels. Let them cause upheaval. The people will contain them as they have contained them. And the people of Kenya have seen what we've done. Advocates are happy. That is the most important thing.
Which leads to the next question. Any regrets about ever running for president of LSK?
No regrets whatsoever. Serving in public office is an absolutely new experience. It teaches you to be selfless. It teaches you to put yourself in harm's way for greater good. Of course, I've lost I've lost a lot on account of money and time, because you can't serve the people of Kenya through the Law Society and at the same time run an illustrious practice to make money. But it's a small cost to pay for the greater good.
Like one of the presidential candidates has said, he wants to give 6,000 shillings to all the youth in the country to empower them.
Yes.
Do you support a similar initiative in Westlands? Like, would you do that?
What is 6,000 to the youth? What the youth need is not money. They don't need tokens. The Constitution has guaranteed them an opportunity to work, to do business. These opportunities need to be available. We need infrastructure. We need workshops. You understand? We need businesses where they'll be able to exploit their talent to the maximum. Don't give them tokens. Don't give them money.
So in a nutshell, you're against Raila's ideology.
No, I'm not against Raila's ideology.
I set you up so
I'm Raila's formidable grandson. So however much you struggle to set me up against him, you won't succeed. If you go to Bondo right now, huyu ni kijana ya baba. But I must stand for what is right in the Constitution, what is good for the youth. They need to be empowered. They need businesses. You understand? They need employment opportunities. And look at the state of affairs in Kenya. We have, and there's nothing wrong about getting old, because aging is a privilege that is denied to many.
Yes.
But as you age, you need to leave these opportunities for those who come after you. You find somebody who is in her 60s, going to 70, holding 4 state jobs. What? You mean, Nick, you cannot be the chair of housing finance?
I can be.
Of course. Therein lies the problem. Not 6,000. Let these jobs be occupied by youth, people between the age of 18 and 35. Of course, I'm much older than that. So let me occupy the elective office. The appointive offices, vijana kama Nick wachukua hizi kazi.
If you were elected MP of Westlands, what's the first thing you would do to change Westlands right now? What would it be?
First things first. Many people, when they get into office, they want to pursue their agenda. Within the first 100 days, I will I'll have a meeting with the stakeholders in Westlands so that we identify the key areas that will benefit from good legislation, the areas that require executive oversight, areas that require immediate distribution of the national revenue, areas that need infrastructural development, so that when I sit or stand in the House to speak, I will be speaking on behalf of the people of Westlands and not on my own. That is fundamental, because an elected leader is a servant. He or she must always remember that the boss is the people. And this is what I've undertaken to do. And Jeff and listeners, I can guarantee you this will be done. Look at what I did at the Law Society of Kenya. I said, tell me what are the key areas of concern. Then it was bad legislation, lack of adherence to the rule of law and obedience of court orders, and impoverished state of practice of lawyers. And I enumerated them as my 3-point agenda. And now I've also done my research. I've identified what are the key problems that bedevil the people of Westlands. What are the key issues of concern for the people of Kenya? How do those issues marry with the responsibilities and duties of members of National Assembly? And have identified them into 4. Ask any parliamentary aspirant, ask anybody who's been in parliament what they've done about those 4.
I don't know if you quite answered the question, but okay, do the Mount borders in Nairobi, some people call them a menace to society in some parts, especially when it comes, when it comes to accidents and the way they surround vehicles and the way they threaten other drivers and pedestrians as well, for that matter. What would you do to solve that menace?
No, the drivers cannot be categorized as a menace. They play a fundamental role in the transport sector in this country. I believe what needs to be done is for us to have good infrastructure to accommodate border riders, to accommodate motorcyclists. as we expand the roads, can we have lanes that are specifically allocated to motorcyclists? Why are they prohibited from getting to the central business district? There is no justification whatsoever. Allocate for them. We have bus stops. Why can't we have motorcycle stops? Let us have an orderly society, because society is growing. There was a point in time we didn't have motorcycles in Nairobi, but we have them. We can't run away from that fact. So the best way to do is to make it conducive for them to operate. And ask yourself this question, and it is a very pivotal question: for what purpose are the borders here? It is not for their benefit, it's for your benefit and I. Often when I'm rushing to the airport and the traffic is horrendous, I always just jump out of my car and board and do this, so that I reach my destination speedily. So they are important. We need to make provision for them, and adequate provision. And as day succeeds night, my main responsibility so far as border riders are concerned when I get into parliament is to pass legislation to recognize them as motor vehicles allowed to use the roads in Kenya, including access to the central business district. That is the bare minimum. We must have this.
I can just see Nelson Havi Ananduthi right now. Can you picture that?
With his suitcase.
Baby.
Which suitcase bana?
Or you go and buy clothes at the destination.
Mimi ni mtu wa kawaida, takutana na nguo huko destination.
Finally, before we let you go, your thoughts on first ever's woman female Chief Justice. Talk about Martha Koome, of course. Your thoughts?
Justice Martha Koome has had an illustrious career as an advocate. She played a big role in the Second Liberation. She served as a council member of the Law Society. As a High Court judge and as a Court of Appeal, she had her ups and downs, but mostly downs. I think this is a matter that history has documented well. Look, my only problem is speaking the truth. When she was shortlisted for interview of the Chief Justice, I voiced my concern with a very elaborate memorandum. But the decision to appoint her was not mine. It was a decision of the Judicial Service Commission. And in life, you must always respect the decision of others. So I respected the decision, and I've offered to give my assistance as I am required under the Judicial Service Act, because the President of the Law Society of Kenya sits in the NCAJ, National Council on the Administration of Justice. But unfortunately, just like Chief Justice Hancock's before her, Justice Martha Koome looks at me, looks at the Law Society as an inconvenience. In fact, she's gone as far as accommodating those rebel 8 council members who were removed from office by members. I mean, it speaks a lot. But again, I'm not going to be the president of the Law Society forever. I'll be out of office in less than 4 months. Somebody will take over from me. If the relationship between my successor and her will be better, so be it, for the good of the Law Society and for the good of the judiciary. I mean, it's good to have differences, but not to personalize them. I don't personalize my problems with Martha Koome. I think she's a great person. She can make a much better Chief Justice if she was just to listen and be a little bit accommodative, as was her immediate predecessor, and even the one before him, David Maraga and Willie Mutunga. You must listen, because you're first an advocate before you become a judge. The Law Society of Kenya has tremendous powers. Any judge who underestimates that power, sorry to say, is a great fool.